Well, first of all, I want to start by apologizing for two things. One, sorry about my neighbor who decided to remodel literally his entire house, so if the background noise is too much, sorry. Second of all, I want to apologize for the last two videos that I uploaded. They very clearly were not labeled properly. There was a huge miscommunication with exporting thumbnails and video titles. So, regardless, the videos are there. Sorry about that. Screwed it up. Now, on to today's video. You know someone that I personally hold in high regard despite being a libertarian? Julian Assange. Because Julian Assange is one of the very few people in the world who actually takes the essence of what it is to be a journalist seriously and is willing to go all the way in order for the right thing to be done and the right thing to be heard. Now, many of you may know that thanks to an investigation by Yahoo News, which is strange, you usually don't hear that phrase very often, it has been revealed that the CIA, particularly with Donald Trump, plotted to kill and kidnap Julian Assange from the Ecuadorian embassy. That, very interesting. In 2017, Julian Assange began his fifth year holed up in Ecuador's embassy in London. The CIA plotted to kidnap him and assassinate him. Now, Trump very specifically talked about actually assassinating Julian Assange. He even requested sketches and options for how to assassinate him. In other words, he went to the CIA and said, here, give me some ideas on how we could assassinate the guy while he's in a foreign embassy. Which is, well, I mean, obviously it's illegal to do that in a foreign embassy, Saudi Arabia. Well, you know, the embassy might not be very happy about it. It's also incredibly unethical to just do that. You know, kill somebody for revealing a crime that had been committed. But, I mean, as with regards to U.S. government and crimes, that's pretty much how it works. Now, the agency actually didn't just stop there. They had planned to prolong an entire multi-pronged attack on WikiLeaks itself, which means not just stuff against Julian Assange. They planned to spy on WikiLeaks associates. They also talked about sowing discord among the members, trying to make them fight against each other, trying to make hostilities in there, and spy on electronic devices. In other words, this is very similar to what COINTELPRO does. So it appears WikiLeaks may have even had its own COINTEL moment in order to destabilize us. Now, the question is, of course, why did they go to all this? Why did they plan to kill him? Because Julian Assange has leaked a lot of information that the U.S. government and other countries around the world didn't want exposed. A lot of this comes down to the collateral murder video, which was leaked by Chelsea Manning, in which, I believe it was 2007, a U.S. military attack helicopter deliberately targeted journalists for killing, foreign journalists, of course. They weren't American journalists, because these ones had the tendency to tell a little bit too much truth and give them a better balanced view of, you know, what the U.S. is, you know, actually doing to Iraq. And that's where this happened, inside of Iraq. And that got released, and then there was a big outrage, and then it just sort of went away. I mean, it was only Iraqi journalists, so, I mean, not like important American ones or anything. There's no Don Lemon or Anderson Cooper, a fellow CIA man. So, Pompeo publicly denounced the group WikiLeaks in 2017 as non-state hostile intelligence service. Now, if that phrase seems a bit confusing to you, that's probably for a reason. That's because it doesn't really mean anything. It's just some kind of label that they have to put on WikiLeaks in order to demonize it. Normally this would be just considered someone leaking something from the inside and getting it out. But WikiLeaks has proven to be very organized in actually doing this getting massive amounts of information, including 250,000 diplomatic cables out into the public, which also embarrassed the U.S. because it revealed a lot of the crimes that they were doing. And that seems to be the main problem altogether is, you know, the crimes that are being committed, that are getting exposed, is what the United States government is really angry about. Now, of course, when reached for comment by Yahoo News, the CIA declined to comment, and Pompeo did not respond to a request for comment. Now, all this information did come out from about 30 interviews that Yahoo News investigative journalist spoke to. And that's a lot of people. That's a lot of confirming sources. Now, some of the National Security Council officials were really worried about what the CIA was doing, and this is what the information that's been leaked about where they were going, what they were doing, that kidnapping Assange might not just be illegal, but it might jeopardize the prosecution of the WikiLeaks founder. I mean, it's kind of hard to, like when someone's getting arrested for something and the police blatantly break the law in the process of the prosecution or the arrest itself, and then it later gets thrown out. That's what they were trying to avoid. Of course, that really wouldn't have mattered if they had just gone and assassinated them, because then there wouldn't have been any trial, but, I digress. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. U.S. intelligence says that Russia was very, very interested in Julian Assange, and that the GRU, that would be the Russian intelligence agency, was actually thinking about going in and rescuing Assange. Like actually breaking into the embassy, getting him out, and extraditing him to Russia. Or not extraditing, but escaping him to Russia, where he would probably join Edward Snowden and the like in... where essentially he would be safe for the most part. But the U.S. was very concerned about the plans that Russia had in order to do this. They say that intelligence officers were actually preparing, like they were getting ready to do this, to sneak Assange out of the United Kingdom and take him to Moscow. Okay. So, what actually stopped the CIA from going after the Russian operatives? Well, apparently they were worried about potential gun battles with Kremlin operatives on the streets of London, which, that would have been a diplomatic nightmare. London would have been furious that was going on. And not to mention, if any innocent people had been killed in the process, if a British citizen, a UK citizen, were to actually die in that conflict, that would have been a diplomatic nightmare. That would have been way too much. There was talks about grabbing him, shooting out the tires of a Russian plane carrying Assange before it could take off for Moscow. U.S. officials asked the British counterparts to do the shooting. So if gunfire was required, and the British agreed, according to a former senior administration official. So, if an innocent gets hit, it was your own government that did it. America didn't actually shoot a UK citizen. It was the UK government who did it. Which... diplomatically, it's much more palatable when you shoot your own people, because then the foreign power doesn't have to be involved in it. But this is the whole trove of what's come out, and how much was going on behind the scenes when Trump was the president of the United States. It isn't enough to just destroy this guy's life. It isn't even enough to lock him up in Belmarsh prison, where, frankly, he's going to die. I don't think he's even going to get extradited. I think he's going to die in that prison, one way or another. From the reports about his health, he's very likely going to die before there's even a decision on whether he's going to be extradited. But that's the length the U.S. was willing to go. That's how embarrassed the U.S. government and the U.S. military are, that somebody exposed that they gunned down a bunch of innocent people. All this outrage at Julian Assange, even all this outrage from the American people, calling him a traitor, which is strange because he's not American, he's Australian, but they're calling him that anyway, calling him a spy, calling him an agent provocateur, sabotage, etc., all of which was repeated for Chelsea Manning. And not really that much outrage for the actual innocent people that were killed. the journalists that were reporting on war, which, by the way, is one of the most dangerous jobs in the entire world. And, well, I think you can see a bit why that is the case. So it's interesting to note the one-sided outrage that most of the U.S. public has in this regard. But in the end, can we really be surprised? I mean, the U.S. government would deliberately target someone like this for exposing the crimes that the U.S. carried out. And it shows the very perverse nature of the capitalist state and the capitalist society in general. That exposing a crime is morally repugnant, worse, much worse, than actually committing the crime itself. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.